Hey, Julia Barzik here from Wise Investigator. So in this video, I'm going to outline 6 steps that you can take to make progress on your funding situation, which does not involve writing any white papers or writing any proposals, but rather the prep work, the legwork, the planning, the thinking that you should be doing so that you can get yourself in the best position possible to apply for those funding opportunities, and importantly, to figure out which opportunities you may want to pass on, right, and save your time for something else. Okay, so what can you do in just one day to make really good progress here? All right, the first one I'm going to mention, step 1, and I know that I sound like a broken record on this, but I am not going to stop talking about it because it is so important and because most PIs are not making the most of this. So until I see that people are, I'm going to keep hammering home this point. Okay, so your LinkedIn profile. Now, when I work with clients, we are able to really up level their profile to a very high level, and we spend something like hours on this, right? It's not days, it's not weeks, but it's hours. But if you are not ready to spend maybe a full hour or hours, then you can spend as little as 15 to 20 minutes and make a huge up level here. So you can put this on your calendar as something that's related to funding, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, what you want to do on LinkedIn, if you're at the stage of, say, I'm going to spend 20 minutes. Again, there's more you can do, but I'm going to keep it to the absolute minimum here. So you want to check your profile picture. If your profile picture is from another era of your career, like when you were a student, or if it is not high resolution, if for some reason it just doesn't look like you anymore, if you don't like it, even for whatever reason, you're just not feeling it, then replace that photo. So probably you have a photo that you can use from maybe that someone else has taken of you already. I find that's very often the case when we're working with clients and they say, oh, actually, I have another photo that I can use, and I even have it right here. Or you can have someone take a photo of you on the smartphone. Obviously, they have good cameras. Just do that. Okay, get that. Then the banner image is what goes behind your headshot or your profile picture. And here it's good to have a photo. When we're on this really rushed plan here, then you're just going to take a photo of your campus. That's it. You can go onto the university website or go onto a Google image search and find a photo that you can use, and you put that up as the banner image and be done with it. There's many more things you could put there instead, but we're working fast here, so just do that. Then the third thing, well, actually, okay, there's one more. But the third thing that I would encourage you to do is to look at your headline. So now, most of the time, the default, what's going to be there is the default that says assistant professor at whatever, because that's your job title. But you don't really need to have assistant professor there, or you can have that there. People can scroll down and see you're an assistant professor. Most PIs like to keep that assistant professor title there. That's fine. You don't need to have at whatever school, because if you look just to the right on the page, there's actually your employer, which is the university, listed right there. So when they see, assistant professor, and then, for example, UNC Chapel Hill, with, the icon for that, then that's going to be very clear that you're there. So you don't need to use characters on the name of your institution. What you can do is list off keywords that relate to your research. So go ahead and do that. And you can also list off, in addition to a couple technical terms, you can list off some non-technical terms if something like teaching is important to you, or outreach, or DEI, or something like that. You can put those things there as well, as in addition to your technical keywords that describe what you do, because this is going to give viewers a very quick understanding of what you do. Because of course, if you say only that you're a professor, you could be from so many different disciplines. People aren't really getting an idea of what you do unless they scroll all the way down. Now, the last thing, okay, this number 4 for this, is just make sure that your contact information and your location is correct. So if you have a Gmail address in there, you might want to use the email address that's given to you with the university domain, right? That makes sense. If you live in one city on the East Coast now, but you have the name of a city that you lived in many years ago on the West Coast, or even if they're not on different coasts, right? But definitely you want to change that, because that looks like, oh, wow, this person lives in a, totally different area than what it says on their LinkedIn. So go ahead and just confirm that everything there looks okay. Also, under contact information, you may have had a link to a website that you had in the past that site's no longer active, or is not, even existing any longer. So make sure that if there is a website link there, that is up to date. Then there's more you can do with LinkedIn, but for this one day of accomplishments here towards funding, that's enough. And I say that this work can be done in 20 minutes. I was recently working with a client who had a deadline for something that just needed to take priority. So we just did the minimum on LinkedIn, and we're going to go back and do more there. But that what I just outlined for you was accomplished in 20 minutes. So this can be done. Okay, so your next step, number 2 on the day of that you're preparing for the funding year, go back to your old emails that you have sent to program officers and related people in funding. You certainly have sent emails to them over the last year, over the last 2 years, and you've not gotten replies. You may have written once or twice, maybe more. People usually give up after 2 times, but don't give up after 2 times. And you can reactivate this attempt at your correspondence. So, do a search of your sent mail, do think through, okay, who did I contact, and go back. And if it's been a year or less, just respond to that email that you originally sent and say, I'm still looking at this opportunity. I'm still interested in your program. Can you please respond, and we could set up a time to talk, or you could tell me how to proceed. So do that. If the email's older than that, or you feel more comfortable just starting a new email to that person, then go ahead and do that. But the thing here is that you've already initiated an effort. You've already identified these people. You've already drafted some kind of email, even if it's short. So just reactivate, right? You're just reactivating things that you've already done and capitalizing on the effort that you have already made to reignite something. Let's see if something can come up here. And, you just may get a reply. So go back and do that as number 2. All right, so your number 3 item that you can do on this day is do a search of a funding database, or a web crawling aggregator search tool. Let's just call it a search tool for funding. So we use GrantForward. Pivot is also very commonly used. Whatever your institution uses, whatever you have access to, go ahead and use that. And you will find that it brings up, of course, many results. Some of them are going to maybe be often things that you already know about. Yeah, I know about that program. I've seen this 100 times. I know. Other things you may feel like, well, that's not relevant to me because, for example, if this is advertising for a postdoc position, I am not going to do another postdoc. That's not relevant to me. But I encourage you to click on those, even if you see something and you say, oh, the deadline's too soon, or again, this isn't the right fit for me, not my career stage, or it's not, something about it right away. You feel like this wouldn't fit. Just take the time to just click on it and do a little scan, because sometimes there can be contact information in there that's useful for you, and you might want to make a note of who that contact person is. Even if it's, again, not a great fit for a specific funding opportunity for you right now, you can, now that you have your LinkedIn profile complete, if this person is working in an area that's related to what you do, funding a program, again, that's not the perfect fit for you, but topically it relates to what you do, or it's at an agency that you're trying to get involved with, you can then go onto LinkedIn, see if that person is on LinkedIn. About 50% of the time, you'll find the government employee in these types of roles will be on LinkedIn, and just send a connection request. And you don't have to write any kind of note or anything. They're obviously going to know why you're connecting with them or requesting to connect. And of course, when they click on your profile and they see those keywords there and they match up with what they do, then it's like super obvious why you would want to make that connection request, and they're going to accept it. It's, it's no big deal. So yes, do that search. And then of course, keep an eye out for anything that we're not aware of that is new, that could be a good fit. And if you want to pursue some of those, then go down the path of sending the emails that you need to at that moment, or make a note to do that right later in the day. Okay, so number 4 would be to review what might be available to you at your institution this upcoming year to support you with funding. This could be things like newsletters. Maybe newsletters have been coming out from the research office that are highlighting either funding opportunities. These could be kind of like narrowly focused on your department, your school, or they could be broader. They could be more, again, it depends what comes to you and how your institution organizes these things. But whether it's specific funding opportunities that have been forwarded to you or sent to you somehow, whether it is general information on the kinds of services, support services that are offered that you might want to take advantage of, make a note of those. There also could be things like workshops, webinars, other kinds of training support that you might want to become aware of and register for and participate in. So I was working with a client last year who is not at the stage of applying for career, but at their institution, there is maybe a half-year long group that works to support faculty who are going to apply for career. So this person was able to join up with that group because there was some extra space. So this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to get that training, start the wheels turning, and thinking about how you're going to present yourself for career. What is your idea going to be that you propose? Are you doing the broader impact and research stuff to get that moving? And there's really not a better way to prepare for that in the following year or even 2 years down the road than by sitting in with this group of people and getting this training a year in advance. It's just so valuable. And to be able to do that without the pressure is wonderful. So look for newsletters, other places where this kind of information would be posted, and see what's at your institution, what you can be taking advantage of now. Okay, so with that, and with these items that we're talking about, going back to the old emails, doing a search for opportunities, looking at what's your institution at your institution. So for number 5, now look at your calendar. So what you want to do here is think about what you might have just learned, again, about some deadlines, about following up on emails that you just sent or reactivated, and block some time, weekly, what would work for you right now with your teaching schedule that you have this upcoming semester. What would work for you weekly as a time to check in on following up in the correspondence, doing searches, etc., and eventually starting to draft something. But we're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about getting ready to do this kind of stuff. So set some time weekly that you're going to do this, and think about some time also monthly and quarterly where you have the bigger blocks of time. So if you're setting aside an hour a week to just check in and reactivate emails, follow up on things like that, schedule stuff, right? Then you could do an hour a week. Now, monthly, you may want to look and see, when could I block, a half day a month to dedicate to these kinds of opportunities. But at this stage, I would be at the point of starting to draft up some ideas. So, starting to look at that, putting that preliminary data together, starting to draft a white paper that you might need a couple hours for. And then quarterly, look at what your year looks like and when you might be realistically going to be able to have those chunks of time. And you don't need to make any big decisions at this point, but the idea is to get it just into your brain so that as you're going about your other activities, you have already thought about it, and then your mind will start kind of figuring out the solutions to the problems of when you're going to do this, what might fit in terms of a timeline, what opportunities might fit your calendar well. But if you don't look far enough out on the calendar and don't even put that information in there, again, with the opportunities that you may consider, looking realistically at your calendar. And, if you're planning over the winter break to go outside of the country to perhaps visit family or usually those kinds of trips would also involve connecting with colleagues at other institutions, giving talks, things like that. If that's realistically going to be some of your time off. At this stage, just be realistic about the fact that you probably are not going to get a lot of proposal or really any proposal writing done during that time. So this is a good time to be honest with yourself about when you have larger chunks of time to dedicate to proposal drafting, and give yourself the vacation time and the time away that you need, that is completely reasonable to take. And if you are visiting family that you don't see very often, that's okay. Just try to come to peace with that now, and then enjoy that time with your family, and not feel that you should be writing proposals in addition to doing everything that you want to do on a trip like that. So once you do block are more realistic about what some of those blocks of time are going to be used for, that's your time, away from campus, then try to look at when you are on campus, when you are not on these, vacation periods, when could you do the proposal writing? And you don't have to, again, make a decision right now, but just let that sit in there so the solutions can come to you. Also, though, when you have your calendar out, do mark any deadlines that you may be facing. Again, maybe it's not a final decision, but you can put that in there as a soft, like, save the date or hold to prepare for some submissions that you're considering submitting for. Okay, so final one, number 6. So after you've done all of this, please commit to sending 3 new inquiries. So you already reactivated emails from these contacts that you have made or attempted to make in the past. So now reach out to 3 new contacts. You probably have found some contact information for some people when you did the search for the funding, which would be on the tool, like I mentioned, GrantForward, Pivot, or something like that. That probably brought up some people. You can also look at agency websites. You can do a search on LinkedIn and find contacts at these organizations. So whether they are somebody who is managing a portfolio of research, like a program director or program manager, and they're a direct contact towards funding, great, reach out to those people. Also consider reaching out to people who are performing the research, scientists and engineers in the government labs, because you can have great conversation with them, a technical conversation about the work that they do and what you do. And this could be a few steps away from getting funding. It could also just become a really wonderful collaboration that could benefit your career and that you could really enjoy and get a lot of good results from. So think broadly. These 3 contacts would not only have to be program officers. They certainly could be, but they could also be people who could be new collaborators, people that you just want to learn about what's been going on at that organization. I keep hearing that they're doing stuff in this area, but I haven't taken the time to actually look it up or reach out to anyone. Now would be a great time to just do that outreach. And actually included in these people too could be, as I'm talking about outreach, could be people that you're considering doing outreach, as in educational type outreach or other types of broadening capacity or broadening participation, I should say, opportunities. So those might be, or there might be organizations there or people that you've heard, oh, I hear they're doing some really great stuff in the community or over in the School of Education or with a nonprofit that's in my local area, but I haven't actually made the connection then. So this would be a good time to make those connections, and funding opportunities can come through stuff like that too, in addition to that just being a great thing to do that you should enjoy. And make sure it's something that, at that point, make sure it's something that you would enjoy, right? There's always opportunities for the broadening or broader impacts and broadening participation type stuff that will appeal to you more than others. So if you like working with high school kids, then go for that stuff. If you like working with young kids, go for that stuff. If you don't like working with young kids, don't worry about that, right? Just because someone else is doing that and it's a great program, it doesn't mean that that's the right program for you. So if there's been things on your mind that you're curious about, you could include these in the 3 contacts that you make. And of course, look for those people on LinkedIn and send the connection request right there.